Оп, оп.
Крой, демон, нахуяривай!
On September 12, 2023, elite Ukrainian storm units from the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade launched a final push to liberate the town of Andrifka in the Donetsk region from Russian forces. The operation was captured on helmet cameras by soldiers of the 1st Infantry Assault Battalion who took part in it. The footage later provided the foundation for a film that would become known as 2000 Meters to Andrifka. This is what they witnessed. Previously, a Russian squad had been holding the sector the men had to advance through, but abandoned their positions after coming under heavy Ukrainian machine gun fire.
Давай, наваливай туда, на край этого.
Присядь, бо глушить буде.
Mortars were also used to force the Russians to disperse during their retreat.
И там отработал миномет, там группа, держали вот эту всю часть. Сейчас там нету, это было, блядь, еще минут 20 назад. Все нормально. Нет, я простреливал весь этот сектор. Все, плюс, давайте, я вас крою, проходите.
Все, снайпер, бежим по...
Подожди, сейчас я дам. На 12 все простреливалось.
The Ukrainian soldiers exploited the gap left by the retreating Russians and pushed further toward the town. In such situations, the rule is simple: no maneuver without fire, and so the Ukrainian machine gunner provided covering fire for his teammates as they bounded forward. Meanwhile, the maneuvering element pushed forward through the desolate landscape. Then, this happened.
Це дим. Права нога. Нора. Закидай гренку. Я тримаю.
As the assault element encountered a possible enemy position, the machine gun team farther back continued to provide covering fire.
Насыпай, не идут, прикрывай. Так, по чуть-чуть, по 3, по 2 выстрела.
This time, the action is filmed from the perspective of the assistant machine gunner, whose job is generally to pass ammunition to the gunner and help direct the fire.
Мина!
Сука, АГС.
Mortars and an automatic grenade launcher system, likely an AGS, were also impacting the battlefield. Judging by the soldiers' verbal reaction and the briefly visible dust cloud behind them, at least the AGS fire appeared to be incoming enemy fire. Correction, it seemed that the mortar fire was also incoming. Since the length of the operation and the time the men would have to remain in position were unknown, ammunition had to be conserved.
Экономим БК, блядь, еще дохуя, нам закрепиться, потом еще висеть там.
Another team moved up toward the machine gun position. Due to the high concentration of tactically employed indirect fires, squads and platoons have to maintain greater dispersion and cannot maneuver in a tightly cohesive formation. That is why the soldiers are scattered across the area in pairs. The massive use of drones has only intensified this problem.
Снайпер, зараз ми підтягнемося, бо ми тут є біля одного такого нещасного дерева.
While the men have to move up across exposed terrain, the point element has already made contact with the enemy and a firefight erupts.
Бля, мене клин!
A sudden weapons jam intensifies the situation even further. For a two-man team, this immediately means a 50% loss of close-range firepower, a dangerous reduction. Fortunately, an abandoned Russian rifle is lying nearby, and the Ukrainian soldier quickly picks it up. That brings him back into the fight, and the assault continues.
Там підвал. Секач, прикрий! Секач, чекай!
The men got ready to push forward again, a pretty arduous undertaking given the near total lack of
Тут
cover.
нора. Тут труп. Просуваємося до будинків.
There were a few ruins ahead of them that could have served as a safe haven and anchor point for further movement, but they were most likely occupied by the Russians. Additional indirect fire hitting the ground they were operating on did not make things any easier either.
Справа. Є позиція біля тебе. Треба зайти в будинок.
As the audible intensification of the fighting across a broader front made clear, this was not a good moment for all elements to be exposed out in the open. Meanwhile, another potential danger for the assault soldiers was beginning to emerge in the sky.
Все, займаємо тут. Я дивився, там нічого нема. Отак, наліво.
More incoming AGS fire landed close enough to the men to be clearly heard, but far enough away not to affect their movement.
Ні. Кинув. Все, пішли. Пішли сюди. Сюди, так. А? Просуваємося до будівлі, ми маємо закріпитися і все.
Пекач. Треба нори почистити.
The Russians were most likely hiding beneath the rubble of the many buildings to protect themselves from artillery and drones. With Russians most likely beneath them, and drones and artillery above them, the Ukrainians could do little for the moment but bravely hold their positions.
Цілі там? Цілі?
A barrage of artillery came crashing down on them, yet the battle-hardened men barely flinched.
Ззаді нас якраз. Це дим.
While these men were bravely exposed to the thunder of artillery, scammy non-Western, but sadly also some Ukrainian content farms did not even have the respect to provide this footage with human written commentary. But that is what I am here for. So if you appreciate my efforts, please show it by skipping their videos when they upload and watching mine all the way through. Also make sure to leave a like and a comment to help me with the YouTube algorithm. The men of Team 1 pulled back into a destroyed ruin because of the intense shelling, hoping it would shelter them at least a little from the Russian fire. What followed were scenes for the history books.
Оп, оп. Да, ти.
This time, a Russian shell landed even closer, yet once again the men did not move an inch from their position. This deserves respect.
Це прямо перед нами впало? Це прямо перед нами? 152, напевно.
Did you hear that? A pretty high caliber, Soviet-type round.
Давайте, пацани, обережно, да. Давай, крий.
Там, де потрібна моя допомога, там є зараз люди.
The operation enabled the 3rd Assault Brigade to secure a foothold on the outskirts of Andrifka and eventually clear the village of enemy troops. Sadly, the town was later retaken by Russia, but the rest of this battle will be told in a later video. Because what follows now is equally intense footage, but see for yourself. Now we jump to Orlivka, where the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade also made history in 2024.
Быстрее, быстрее, быстрее! Посадку, посадку, посадку! Рюкзак взял, посадку!
The task of the assault troops, who belong to the 2nd Hydra Company of the 2nd Mechanized Battalion, was to drive the Russians out of 2 streets and push them back from Ukrainian positions in order to prevent any further advance, at least temporarily. Historically speaking, this was part of a larger delaying action in the Avdiivka area.
По нас відпрацював міномет. Приблизно азімут 210 на 190. Як прийняв? Дякую. Зараз затягнемо нам.
While the men here were conducting a local offensive operation on the tactical level, they were, as mentioned, part of a broader defensive delaying operation aimed at conducting a controlled fallback and buying time while inflicting the greatest possible attrition on the enemy.
Смотри, ориентировочно будет между улицами здания посреди поля. Условно там есть какой-то блиндаж по переходам. Обязательно его проверить. Как принял. Плюс принял.
Ти бачиш, яку їбало? Братан, по нас який башить 120-ка. Ох і бритва, я Федя, нас срисували.
Это по нам работают.
Плюс є маркування, тут нахуй міномет.
Давайте, парни, на выход.
Куди дома, давай, давай.
Давайте, швидше, готові? Рух.
Before the men could begin their assault, they first had to establish a base from which they could coordinate the attack. For this, they chose an abandoned
Пацани,
house.
зараз ми вас тут біжняк будемо робити. Коротше, план такий. Ми зараз будемо штурмувати ту вулицю. В'їбу прямо цей дом другий. Після мого вистріла кулеметник буде десь звідси, треба тут вас знайти точку. Все, займайте тут позицію. Я їбашу термобаром. Ночному даю команду, він починає працювати пулеметом. В це время стартує штурмова група. Так, пошли, я вам зараз покажу, куди вам бігти. Просто пробіжіть до цього будинку і під стінками займіть укриття. Даже вас дрон спалив, ви зашились, переждали обстріл, погнали далі.
Inside the house, the men befriended an abandoned dog. It is a sad but often overlooked reality of war that many people are forced to leave pets and farm animals behind. The content farms that impersonate me would have eaten him. Outside, a Ukrainian drone spotted Russian soldiers, and the Ukrainians began their attack.
Зомбі, серфер, археолог, я...
Федя, починаємо. Як прийняв?
Ну що, родний?
The men moved toward their target.
Федя, мы все на месте, как принял.
Плюс, пацани, починайте роботу. Ще один даю в дом далі.
Рух за мной, рух, рух!
Again, there was no maneuver without fire. Here, fire support was provided by RPG fire, which also initiated the attack.
Прям в дом, нахуй.
Зенdik, ти от сюди. Стріляєш, контролюєш. Ми вдвоєм заходимо.
Братан, всі на своїх місцях чекають команди.
Плюс, сейчас разбил.
Зомби, срочно закрепляться в доме тут надо.
Давайте, пацаны, работаем. Все, пойдет.
Сейчас ми вам, блядь, дамо пізди.
Все, ебашьте, я перебегаю нам.
The assault element also began fighting its way forward with suppressive fire.
Рекси, сука. Зараз малышини роблять діло.
Плюс один! Крой, демон, нахуяривай! Я туда сейчас гранату ебану, братуха! Своя! Хуярь, зомби, хуярь! Тройте!
Fire support from RPGs and handheld grenade launchers was maintained at a constant rate to ensure the Ukrainian attackers kept fire superiority over the Russians.
Красава, братуха! Загорелся! Я тебе говорил, Ванька, на Сибири бы остался! Хто, пацани, дивиться цей відос і знає, що він оставив оцих 2 чудесних карандаша отут в гаражі, вам, блядь, велетенське дякую. Якщо зараз все нормально буде, то вони нам поможуть.
The Russians were heavily pressured by the attack and could not respond on their own, so an external element had to provide relief on their side.
Дуда, по нам PPV очень плотно отработала, как принял. PPV по нам, PPV.
The FPV drone briefly managed to disrupt the Ukrainian attack and force parts of the Ukrainian force from fight mode into flight mode. This was a normal psychological reaction, but it was only short-lived here.
Что с тобой, Сёрка? Давай. Давай, работай, брат. Мы тут сейчас пляшем. Давай, пойдем. Штурмовать, пойдем.
The attack continued with increasing intensity, as you can clearly see for yourselves in a moment. But just watch.
Федя, охуенно въебал, охуенно въебал.
Дякую.
Охуенно, мужчины, охуенно проработали, пизда нормально.
Вроде оно!
Федя, продублюй про 300.
Братан, легітимний, в руку, не критичний, вони хуяряться там, що льви.
Пацаны, красавчики, с другой стороны нахуй вышел сударя, блядь.
Зажимаем!
Снимає камера там, да? Привет. Пацаны по 20 лет, по 18. Дебіли. А ви босані дома сидите на. Клубніку, сука, в Польщі, бля. Заїбали, збирайте яйця, сука, в кучу. Фу, у мене все.
Парни, продублюйте, идем под посадкой. Все четко.
Make sure to subscribe for more videos. Also check out the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade's links in the description. Alright? Bye.